Sam and having Coach Parker, it's been very beneficial for myself and our room of like kind of learning the ins and outs of not just the Y and F, but the entire like room or offense. So it's really good.
Here come the Irish. What a run! Touchdown! Play of the year for the Irish.
Hey, welcome to the ND on NBC podcast. I'm your host, Coy Robinson. It's pretty awesome day. That last drive to, oh my goodness. I was in Alaska in a cabin texting my coworker, Douglas Farmer, and it was just like, are you watching this? And it was just amazing to see the physicality. We see that word thrown around a lot, but I do think at the end of the day, put your hand in the ground, go win the game. And after the Ohio State loss, where it just came down, to what our guest on the podcast today, Mitchell Evans, what he called a devastating loss, to see how Notre Dame responded that first drive and then responded at the end of the game, I thought was very, very, it left me feeling very optimistic. I'm wearing white now, took off the morning clothes. So look, we're back in the top 10. Fantastic. At the end of the day, though, we're here to talk to the player if you really want to hear what I'm about to say. So we have Mitchell Evans, the man of the hour. I mean, these games he's putting up right now are just really impressive, especially at the moment where the wide receiver core and the receiving options were a little depleted against Duke. Big time matchup. What does he do? He builds off of that Ohio State performance to then have over 100 yards against Duke, and he seemed largely unstoppable. So what better way to dive into this week's podcast than talking to Mitchell himself? Without further ado, here's Mitchell Evans. So now it's my great pleasure to welcome in Mitchell Evans. I love tight end play. Tyler Eifert was one of my all-time favorite players when I was growing up watching Notre Dame, and I follow this, like, I'm telling you, man, the tight end Kyle Rudolph, Tyler Eifert, of course Michael Mayer, and like you are just having a really nice season, huge game against Duke. What when you went in there, did you feel like it was going to be a special night?
Kind of going into the week, like obviously I had a good game against Ohio State, so I'm like, all right, kind of getting some confidence. We're rolling a little bit. I'm like, all right, trying to bounce back up to a pretty devastating loss. So obviously I was feeling it, ready to go this week against Duke, and knowing they're a good opponent too. So I was ready. I was feeling it, and during the practice throughout the week, there were some plays that were kind of like. I wouldn't say like scripted for me, but like, it kind of like felt like I was maybe like a primary read. And then just the way the ball kind of fell on Saturday night against Duke, it kind of fell in my hands. So obviously, because, it's not like one person gets the ball every play. Like there's different looks at defense gets. So like, it's just up to Sam on like which defense he reads and who the ball kind of gets dispersed to. So just against Duke, it fell in my hands. So
well, that one time you actually knocked the ball into your hand. You were like,
yeah, a little. I didn't even like notice that. I was just playing, and I thought he tipped it, but Sam could have let me a little bit. Maybe want to have that, but no, all love.
You're like, give me some help, man. Give me some help. No. It's funny because it's interesting right now. I'm looking at what's happening across I won't say the league. It feels like a league now, but across the landscape of college football, how you have a lot of transfers coming, even at Notre Dame, Jack Cohn, now Sam Hartman. And when I think about the way I was raised with wide receiver, tight end, quarterback connections, it's all about timing and rhythm and getting those extra reps. How did you manage to develop such a rapport with Sam so quickly?
Just like kind of when he first got here, like he kind of took over the program. Essentially, he kind of stepped in. He's like, hey, like, I'm the quarterback. Let's go. Like, he led us. We do extra work on the side, like throughout winter workouts, spring ball. We go in on a Saturday and just do extra reps. And like literally sometimes we wouldn't even like run a route. He would literally we'd kind of get in a formation and he'd like try to give us a picture of what he was seeing. Like he'd be like, all right, just imagine kind of like a 3-buzz defense, whatever. And the play we're looking or the play we're running, he's like, imagine like what you would do here. And this is how I'm going to see how I'm going to throw you high, or how I'm going to, like, if you see man snap it off, I'm going to throw you kind of lower, or something like stuff like that. So in the off season, like when we worked that a lot. and especially kind of now, like we do a lot of like fine tuning a lot. That's kind of like what we call it. But I feel like this year that's been a very like focal point for like with Sam. He kind of right when he kind of got here, he kind of showed us the way of what he wants to do and how he kind of sees stuff because he's the quarterback, so he really ultimately like makes the offense go. So he just wants us to see what he sees. So we're all on the same page.
Let me ask you something. There is I remember it seems like normally the journey is like you learn your role, your route, and then you start learning your side of the field, right? Boundary field, and then you learn the whole offense. When you were working with Sam, this off season, at what point did you kind of like get to that, PhD level where you're thinking, okay, if this, then that, walk me through that journey for you at your time at Notre Dame.
Obviously, kind of coming in there, I played quarterback in high school, so I kind of already had that like learning method of like learning the whole offense in a way. So when I first got here, I kind of made like a goal of mine to not just learn the why, but like learn the YF and like, oh hey, just in case if we're in a different formation, I'm running like maybe what the X would be running or something like that. So that's what I did as a freshman, kind of learn just the whole offense. Obviously, it was a struggle at first coming from high school playbook to college playbook. But now with like Sam and kind of Coach Parker now is the OC, so like it's kind of nice having he's the tight ends coach and the OC. So like I get a little bit of an inside scoop of like, hey, we haven't even installed it yet, but like for Wednesday's practice, this is our red zone stuff, whatever. So that's kind of he's like a whole day early, so I kind of get another day to prep, whatever. But just with Sam and having Coach Parker, it's been very beneficial to myself and our room of like kind of learning the ins and outs of not just the Y and F, but the entire like room or offense. So it's been really good.
When you think about professional tight ends that you study, who comes to mind?
Do I study or like kind of like trying
to study?
Obviously, well, one is Mike because I was here with him, so trying to implement what I could with him into my own game, as on and off the field stuff, or just even especially on the field. He was a very like on the field like type of leader. Like he'd show you like what kind of he's seeing or like what he wants to do, kind of like Sam does. He's like very physical, like hey, like kind of these steps, this kind of release, this kind of like hand movement, like when you're at second level, all this stuff is kind of what I try to do with him and take all his knowledge. But in the NFL, I'd probably say, I don't know. There's a lot of good ones. I like Travis Kelce. Obviously, that's an easy pick. He's a great tight end. But yeah, he's kind of. I feel like I try to implement like my game to his because he's very like fluid, and I'm trying to be like smooth and very like fluid like he is, and because it works. So yeah,
it certainly works. Everyone always has like the tapes that they watch, like the cut-ups of like this is what a route should look like, right? I remember I watched tons of Jerry Rice clips. Like he's the best route runner ever, right? Like so when you think about like when you're with Coach Parker and you're thinking, okay, we're gonna run, a flag or a post or whatever, an under. Who's the person that you are like, man, I'm gonna watch another cut-up of this guy?
We watched. Okay, when was this? I think in the spring we watched Travis Kelce cut up because, like I said, he's fluid, but he's not even a tight end. He's a receiver. It's Cooper Kupp. He is a technician. He's a dude. He knows, to get in the blind. Same with who was it? Like Tyreek Hill. He's a technician of like just. We watched one with him or I watched one with him of like he just finds like the blind spots of people of corners and like gets them to turn in certain ways. Like I would say Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, and definitely like Travis Kelce are the three guys that I've watched cut-ups of that are dogs.
Yeah, it's funny because like too when I think about tight ends, obviously there's that physicality aspect of it, but like you said, it's just so technically focused. Going over to the physicality side, how do you think about when you're going on, like when you're pulling, when you're blocking, like what is that mindset for you? Because you're not just a receiver put out wide, like you're so much more physical and you're like an extension of that offensive line.
Yeah, I kind of like to view it as the tight end position is like a hybrid. We're a little bit of a receiver, got a little bit of O-line in us. We're a little shifty. We got a little bit of running back in us. So I think we can play, or like we're all three-dimensional. But like when I'm pulling or like when I'm down in the trenches, next to Joe Alt, it's pretty cool. But like I'm thinking like, all right, if I'm down in my hands in the dirt, like it's go time. It's like I'm taking your soul. Like I know most of the teams who play, I'm going against the DN in front of me, and usually he's trying to take the same gap as me. And my mentality, Coach Parker's mentality that he instilled in us is like, don't let that guy win C gap. Usually is what it is. And like, I kind of take that to like personal and take it to the heart of like, this dude's not going to beat me here because that's going to reflect bad on myself, reflect bad on the team, like reflect bad on the coaching staff. Like I'm taking everything like personal, and I'm down in the trenches because, I don't want to let my team down. So when you're down in the trenches, down like pulling, kicking out, you need to have a different type of side to you, a different type of mentality because it's not easy.
Yeah,
So
because we're a former quarterback, and that's it's just so interesting to me because a lot of these guys, the great tight ends, not all of them have played tight end their whole lives. Like I think about guys who come from basketball who are in the Hall of Fame. After college, they just kind of picked up football and then really did well. What do you think of, like, in your own experience, the interdisciplinary nature, that different sports or different skill sets that you pulled from it really influenced you as a tight end?
Yeah, Coach Parker is big on basketball, so he always does some type of terminology. Like he's like, oh, I can't think about the top of my head now, but like we'll be in the meeting, and he'll be like, we'll be talking about like a second level release, like at the top of a route. He'll be like getting like crossover mode, like you're in a basketball court, and like grouping stuff, like doing a 1-2 cross or something like that. Like he's always trying to like kind of envision with basketball, or like if you're trying to do like a fade route. And like envision yourself kind of like doing like you, if you can, like I'm trying to picture it, like you run and then like you slow down with the basketball and you burst again, like just a different type of release to get off, like to change pace, to get defensive back, like all these different type of stuff. He always tries to relate it to basketball, because I think it's the biggest turnover.
I love that. So let's talk about student life during this podcast. We don't always just talk about football. I really like to kind of talk about you as a young man at Notre Dame. So when you're there on campus, what are some of the most special traditions for you, that you just really grab you?
For me, I'm not a scooter guy. So what I mean by that is I'm walking across campus like every other student. I don't have a scooter going from the Goog to DeBart Hall, or I have to walk from the Goog all the way to Bond Hall. So I'm taking a 15-minute walk just like everybody else. So like when I'm walking, I kind of take in like the whole campus. It's a beautiful campus. Walking by underneath the arch from DeBart to the Duncan Student Center, like all that, like it's just it's honestly a great thing for me because I kind of take it that like those walks is like my time to kind of just kind of clear my mind a little bit when I'm walking, because you know how it is, school, football, all this stuff. It's a lot of pressure, so like you don't really have a lot of time to kind of like chill a little bit. So with those walks I have in between classes or in between like on my way to the Goog, whatever, it's very nice. I try to take that all in. It's just looking at the campus. So.
And you learned that so early. I remember for me, that was what the student body president told me when I was coming in as student body president. I was like, man, I can't do football, student body president, all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff happening. And he's like, dude, you got to go for walks.
Yeah.
He's like, that saved your life. So you figured it out, man. You figured it out.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What are your, actually, before we get into that, what are your favorite classes right now, or just in general that you've taken at Notre Dame?
Yeah. Well, now I'm a history major, so I first came here as a business major, wasn't really the right fit for me. Switched over to fine arts. Now I'm a history major because I took a class with Professor Johnson, Ian Johnson, amazing dude. He taught World War II seminar, so I had like 12 people in it, or like, I think at the time actually had like 8 people in it. So we were in there, and he just taught like literally like the behind the scenes or like inner details of World War II, of all the battles. And it was so fascinating to me. So that's kind of where I found my love of like war history. So I've taken another class with him, he got me to become a history major. But I kind of, in high school, I did a program where I did 2 years of being like, it was called criminal justice something. I forget what the exact name was, but it was basically like law enforcement and learn about like ballistics, the like forensics, all this different, like you kind of, stick your foot in a little bit to see what you like. But there's all this stuff about criminal justice. So I've always kind of been intrigued about like what I really want to do is be like in the Secret Service is what I wanted to do. Is like my ultimate goal, or being the FBI. So being at Notre Dame, there's a lot of like contacts.
Yeah, they recruit heavily.
That's been great. But that's really kind of like my ultimate goal is being in like the Secret Service or the FBI of kind of any sort. And with Notre Dame, history to me seemed like the best route to go about it. So, yeah.
When you were a kid, I mean, that's an interesting. If I asked you 10 people that, what do you want to do? I would never get that answer. So like when you were a little kid, was there a moment where you're like, that's it. That's me. That's what I want to do.
I don't even know. I wouldn't even say it was like a kid moment. It was like, I'm in high school. It wasn't like I watched the TV shows and fell in love with like NCIS. It wasn't one of those moments. It was more of just like I had a family relative that was in the Secret Service at one point, and he would kind of just like tell me stories about it, and like I was kind of like, okay, that's kind of cool seeing the president every once in a while. That'd be pretty cool. But that, and then also just when I was in high school, like I said, my junior year, I had the opportunity to like kind of pursue that, or like there was a bunch of different technical programs, and that was one of them. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Screw it. What's the worst that could happen? So I did it and really fell in love with it. And now it's kind of what I want to do. So.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mitchell, for your time, and we can't wait to watch you this weekend. Yeah. And just keep doing what you're doing, man. Like I said, I love like pass catchers, and I think I'm always like, there's Mitchell doing his thing. So just keep it up, man. We're rooting for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. So coming up, Louisville. This is going to be sweet, unbeaten, 5-0. How, in my mind, this is the question: how can Notre Dame address some of the penalties? It's kind of been sloppy recently, and I hate to say it, but it's true. It's kind of frustrating to watch some of these penalties. It doesn't really like false start. It's like silly things. Some missed field goals. So if those things can get cleaned up, then I'm feeling really good about the direction of this team, because I know we saw the toughness. We saw most teams break down after that Ohio State week to respond on college game day the way they did. Incredible. Now the next part, cleaning up the mental mistakes and missed tackles, all that jazz against a very good opponent in Louisville. That will be the key thing that I'm watching for. Okay, so we'll be back next week with reactions from that Louisville game on the road, and preview Notre Dame's next game, which is going to be, you think of USC, Notre Dame. For me, my favorite rivalry is Michigan. But, man, USC, Notre Dame, it doesn't get any better than that. So, at home, but be still my heart. So, be sure to download and subscribe to Notre Dame on NBC Podcast on the NBC Sports YouTube channel, or wherever you get your audio podcasts. And we'll see you then. Go Irish.